Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4. Today, I want to work on an owl. It's a great gray that I was able to photograph last winter. With this tutorial, I want to be able to include some Lightroom tips that hopefully will be able to teach you something. If you already know them, then good. But for those beginners out there that are still learning how to use these shortcut keys that we use a lot, I hope this will be informative. So the first tip I want to work with is how to get information on this image without getting out of it. The way I do it is in Lightroom, I use a shortcut on my keyboard, the letter I. Once I select I, you'll see on my left corner here that I will have the information pop up. So you get your image file, date, time, image size. If you hit that again, then you'll get your image settings, what you use when you photographed it in the field. You can see 2000 per second, good low ISO, aperture, and my distance on my lens there. And then to turn that off one more time, and it's away. So that is the shortcut key on how to operate that. And with that, we'll get started on this image. So the first thing I want to do here is crop this so I have this owl closer to my image. I think it's a great little owl, and I was kept my distance away from him because I don't want to spook him. So even though I didn't have my 1.4 that day, I don't even think I had bought it yet. I was waiting for it to come in. So if I had my 1.4, this owl would have been a lot closer on my image, and I would have to crop as much. But I think we'll still be able to get a good image out of that, as you can see. Um, so temperature wise on the color, well, let me get to this point first. First, let's make sure we set our profiles. Select my lens automatically, remove achromatic. Even though it didn't do any, it did something there with the profile, so we're good. White balance temperature, 5600. I noticed that if I go any lower, it's gonna get really bluish. If I go higher, too warm, and it wasn't that. It was snow out. It was still right before golden hour, so we still had a little bit of. I had clouds in the sky, so it serves as a great light box. The sun's not beaming down, so which was great. Exposure, I think maybe I could bump it just a little bit if I wanted to. Bring that out more, maybe just a quarter. And a little bit of contrast with the owl. Another technique that I touched on before was the highlights and shadows and how to not to clip those. Again, if you clip your whites and when you go print that on paper, what happens is that's going to show up really white, and then your eye's going to be drawn to that piece of the paper, which is the brightest pixel instead of your subject. So we want to be able to avoid that and not hit the clipping areas. A good technique that I learned is with the first technique is hitting the Alt button. As you slide, you start seeing those pixels come in, and that means you're clipping. Same thing with the blacks. I slide to the left, and I see those pixels. Now I'm clipping my images, and my blacks are over black. So a good way to do it is you put your mouse inside the histogram here, hit the J button, and these white boxes will come around the clipping areas. Now as you move it, you don't have to hold that Alt button. If you see this red, that means you're clipping. You're going too bright on your whites, and that's what you want to avoid. So you can work on that as you progress through your image and leave your whites and blacks for later on to see if you're clipping your image. That's a good suggestion there to try. And also with the blacks, if I go left and I start seeing that blue, you can see that blue right here in the chin of the owl. I'm clipping my image. Now those blacks are going to be too black. And I could turn that off by going in here again and hitting J. Another technique is just by selecting. So if I put over that, you can see how it selects it. If I take it off, it comes off. Or you could just click on the box, and there it is again. It stays on. And now your whites won't show up unless you click this box. So that's individually, that's how you do it. Or together, you just hit the J button, and this will come up. I'll reset these. And what I like to do is look at my highlights. Maybe my background's over bright, and I want to be able to make my subject pop. And obviously, my subject is the owl. So I'm going to kind of bring that down a little bit. Shadows are good. My owl doesn't need any more brightness. Maybe just a tad right there. Let's see. You all know my technique for clarity. What I like to do is I like to drop this, make that background a little softer, and then still keep my owl pop. And the way I do that is universally in the picture, I'll drop this clarity down to probably -60, and you can see what that did. It really softens the image up, and this might be a little bit too much, but we'll play around with it and we'll see what it does. And then we'll go to the brush, set that to 60, and we'll start painting the owl. Now what happens here is I could hit show selected mask overlay, and that red will let me know that this is the areas I'm painting for clarity to show up. And well, the rest of the image will not get any clarity. So then the owl will pop. And there you go. See, the owl now is back to its original look. One technique I like to do is when you select that, try to paint as close as you can. Put this point as close as you can to where you're going to paint. That way you can zoom in here. That way you can just zoom in here, and then you can select that brush and select here, and then you can really get any details that you've missed around the owl. Maybe, I went over the edges, and in order to do negative selection, you hit the Alt button, you can make that bigger, and you can start on painting what you don't want. So in case you went out of the lines here, so select that. But that gives you an idea on what to do there. Texture, same thing. Let's see what happens if I drop this more. So it just makes it a little too soft. Maybe I'll do -20. Then what I could do is, since I've already painted the owl, I could select him again and add 20 here. Now look at this. I like what this is doing. That big trunk tree and the snow is blurred out. Give it a good effect. But the owl and this branch that it's sitting on and over here, and it still has its sharpness and detail, which is really nice because it reads really well. It's not a perfect leading line, but it's leading me into the owl, which is really nice. The tone curve. So the tone curve adjustment, and I'm going to play with this to show you a little bit of a few tricks. What it does, you could adjust the luminosity on different parts of the image between the dark tones and light tones. So for example, here I could darken those white areas in the back. And this is called the S curve. So I darken that, and then I bring this up. And you can see what that does. What happens here is now this will brighten up the image in the background. I'll show you this little technique. I'm not going to apply it to this image. So I have an S curve here. Let's say I want to add a little bit more brightness here to the owl. This is how you get like that matte look to your picture. Almost what it looks like on paper. If you bring the endpoint up just a bit there, and then you drop that, it gives it that flat look. You see that? It's really interesting. I actually don't mind this look either. It's feels a little bit too saturated for me, a little rough and flat. But if it's the style you're looking for, this is what I recommend you do. You do an S curve and you drop the endpoint, the top point, you lower it, and that's how you get the matte look. I'll undo that by hitting Control Z, undo the endpoints, the exposure, and then my tone curve will go back to normal. And I could always do that by hitting reset. But here, it's funny because here my picture still looks flat. There's no pop between the background and the foreground. So I do want to give it a little bit of pop. Maybe darken that a little bit on the top of the curve. And we'll still play with some light. I actually don't mind that at all right there. Now it feels like this is more out from the background. So what we'll do here is maybe add some of those whites. We'll play with the whites. See, I don't want to clip it. And I'll do the J technique. There we go. And that's when I know there's the red pixels. So stay below that. Might be fully show up right there. And then we'll move on to highlights. Add in a little bit of split toning here. This is not natural look. There was not orange out there. It was more of a blue. So if I got a little bit of that bluish color to because it's a snowy day out there, and it was flurrying out just a tad bit. And let's see after, before. See, there we go. See, you got a little bit more of light warm color in the snow and the tree. I want to take that away and add a little bit more cooler colors. In the shadows, then, this could actually paint the owl, but owls are gray. So it's got a cooler color to it. It's almost close to that. We'll lower that. And there's your difference. Warmer before, after. You all know my technique also. You hold the Alt button on the masking. Get that highlight as close as you can. I mean the edges. So there it is. If I go all the way, I won't see much of the owl. So I'll keep it out a little bit. Get the edges around the branches and the tree and the owl. We zoom in. So here's no sharpness. This is what the image would look like without any sharpening. And as we apply it, see those edges? Now they're a little bit more sharp. After, before, after. All right. Let's move on to the eyes. My favorite part. So here's the eyes. The owl was looking straight at me, as you can see. So what you do here is hit the adjustment brush, shrink it down where you're gonna color. Make sure that's selected on so you know you painted it. And what I like to do is, so you could size this up using the wheel or using your slider here. So we'll shrink that to the eye, paint it. Is the paint the other eye. Then I like to turn this off to see what I'm looking at. And give it a little bit of let's turn that off for clarity. We'll give it a little bit of brightness, exposure. And what I will do here is add a little bit of temperature to a warmer color, since owl's eyes are usually nice and bright and yellow. And there we go, we bring that out more. Give it a little bit of shadows. There you go. And then what I'll do here is I'll sharpen it. Make it more detailed. Add a clarity and texture. And really those eyes will now pop. So here we go, zoom out. See that? Even from far away, those eyes are on me. It calls you out. Again, this is not altering the picture. What we're here is we're able to adjust what the camera doesn't truly catch completely. Since the camera has a high dynamic range, you can see this with your eye, but the camera will never be able to replicate what the eye does with my camera. And soon, I'm sure cameras will get to that level and better. But we'll be able to bring these back. That's why it's a high dynamic range camera. Those tools are given to us here in Lightroom to be able to show you what we see in the field. Then when you go overboard and you start changing the image up, then that's when you're getting more into changing what your picture is and making them look differently. Saturation, vibrance. I usually like to stay away from these, but let's see what it does. If we add a little bit of saturation, if you go all the way down, black and white, or you could overdo it. And you know what? Like maybe a little bit of 30. Won't be too bad. A little bit of color. And I think that is about it for tips and editing techniques here on the owl. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any comments, questions, please feel free to leave a comment below here on YouTube. Leave me a comment, and if there's anything else you want to learn, something that I missed, maybe another wildlife animal out there. If you go to my Instagram, you can see all the different wildlife. You can select a picture, and yeah, I'll work on it. More than glad to work on those type of videos, and I'll be doing more of that in the future. Please subscribe to the channel right below, or here on the red box below this channel too, for support. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for episode 5. I'm gonna see what I come up with. I think I'm gonna work on a grizzly bear for episode 5. I also have some videos coming up soon. I'm working on some time lapses. I have some sunsets that I've worked on recently. I just got to put the videos together of here in the Tetons. And I got some trips coming up to some other national parks that I want to be able to record and kind of bring that to the audience. So I hope you look forward to that. Subscribe to the channel so you get those alerts as they come in. And again, I post 3 to 4 times a week. So I'm going to try to stay very active on this channel. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.